So without further ado, we've assembled a very stellar cast of researchers, managers of the creative sector, as well as activists and institutionalists. So we're really looking forward to excellent Innovation Café series today. I must thank my colleagues, Fiola and her team, for making this happen, and also for the panelists for coming on board and offering their time so freely and so openly. So back to you, Fiola. Best regards.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nurse. Appreciate it greatly. And at this point in time, I would like to invite our moderator for the day, Magda Chołyst, to introduce herself as well as the panel and to kick things off with our questions.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fiola. And thank you so much, Keith. It's really great to be with you all here. My name is Magda Chołyst. I'm a founder and CEO of Artist in Bloom. It's an educational development agency. We design innovative programs for creative industries, for artists, for creative culture entrepreneurs, and also for leaders and change makers in the creative industry. And it's really a great honor and pleasure to be here with my amazing speakers who I will introduce in a moment. I will be an agile moderator today, as some of our speakers will be leaving a bit earlier. Some will be jumping in with a bit of a delay. So we are having a true cafe, people jumping in, jumping out, and sharing their creative ideas. So I will start with a brief introduction of our panelists, and I will share with you that I asked them to send to me a very short sentence, because their full bio is really long, and they're extremely accomplished, inspiring people. And I hope you will be able to discover that through our conversation. So who is with us here today? We are having Eliana, a creative economy specialist with the competitiveness, technology, and innovation division at the Inter-America Development Bank. Hi, Eliana. Where are you at right now?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm based in Washington, D.C., although I'm originally from Argentina. But here right now, as we speak, yes, I'm based in Washington, D.C.
Amazing.
Very happy to be here.
Very happy to have you. And we're having Erica Smith, who is an IP strategy and management specialist who works at the intersection of IP and the creative industries, agri-processing and technology, and innovation. Hi, Erica.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks that you can join us. And I heard that you're joining from Sofia.
Yes. So it's evening, and I'm a bit jet lagged. So I'm putting that out there in case I say something a little strange. Excuse me.
Thanks, Erica. And I can see in the waiting room that Fawzi is also joining us. So our third panelist today. And Fawzi is a creative director, game designer, author, and a great public speaker, I know by experience, with over 2 decades of global experience, leading game development teams and shaping award-winning titles across major franchises. And Fawzi, if you are here, let us know. And as far as I know, Fawzi is now in Rotterdam. I cannot hear him yet, but probably we will.
No, He had an issue and he's going to try to rejoin. He's in the waiting room again and we're admitting him. Thank you.
Great, great. And we were also, we were supposed to have Tamara Kamińska, Director of Music Expert Poland, and a new fresh festival, Music Week Poland. Unfortunately, Tamara had a last minute duty, but I got from her a beautiful inspiration. So I hope she will be with us in a different way today. So I welcome you all once again, and I think we can kick off our conversation. And I will start with a little introduction because I wanted to set the stage and set the tone for today's conversation as creative entrepreneurship became a really exciting topic recently, and one of the, I have a feeling, most popular words are on people's mouth in many different places. And I wanted to dive into definitions, basic definitions and context to have a common ground for this conversation. And I wanted to share with you a few data that I just collected in Austria, in Vienna. 2 days ago, I was participating in a conference, music industry conference, organized by a film and music association. And the conference was dedicated to professionalization of the music industry. And very interesting study, research data was shared not so long time ago. And I'm going to refer now to the most interesting data for today's conversation. So Austria's music economy contributes 7.5 billion in added value, making it the third largest industry in the country and accounting for 2.8% of GDP. Each music creator generates an average of 16 additional jobs, yet the sector's economic power has been significantly underestimated until now. The music industry in Austria supports around 117,000 jobs, as many as the entire machinery industry and more than the IT or financial sector, and generates 4.35 billion in fiscal effects. And those data are coming from satellite study conducted by Film and Music Association. And it's good to know that Austria has a bit more than 9 million people. I hope my Austrian friends will not feel bad that I'm saying that it's a tiny country in Europe. And yet we are having such eye-opening numbers. And we could go on with this data for quite a long time because research on the impact and the value of creative economy is becoming, we are flooded with this data, I would say, recently. And they are super precious because they are really eye-opening. We really understand what we're having here. So I wanted to start from the question, first of all, how you, dear speakers, guests, experts, how you define creative entrepreneurship when you speak from your angle, from your perspective, both geographically and professionally, and what makes, besides this data, creative entrepreneurship such a big topic these days? I will maybe start from Eliana, and we will jump to context of America.
Sure. Can you hear me? Wait.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's a great triggering question to begin the conversation, and thank you for the opening. So for the Inter-American Development Bank, we cannot like separate creative entrepreneurship without arriving at and landing on the definition of what the creative economy is, right? So you mentioned something at the beginning, but and for us, we define creative economy as a group of activities through which these ideas are transformed into creative goods and services whose value is already or could be protected by intellectual property rights, right? So that is the standard definition for us. So think of ideas, right, that can be transformed into, through entrepreneurship, right, can be transformed into goods and services, for exports and production, and whose value, right, the intangible value of these ideas and creations should be or could be protected, and sometimes already is by IP. So for us, everything that has to do with entrepreneurship related to booming sectors, the main booming sectors of a creative economy, such as video games, digital content for streaming platforms, ad tech, music is another big animation, everything that has to do with audiovisual, that falls into a creative entrepreneurship, right? But also, for instance, everything that is not directly related to the creative economy, right? For instance, if you are an accountant working for an audiovisual, a film producer, for instance, you are part of the creative economy. So sometimes we make this difference because there are direct and indirect categories of the creative entrepreneurs. And we always say that we are all part of a creative economy, even though it doesn't, even though you may not be a musician, a designer, a gamer, a streamer, a YouTuber, we all are part of a creative economy because creativity is all around us. And then the second question is you make was what makes it what was it again? Why is it so relevant now? Or what is the opportunity
Yes.
now? Well,
Yes, exactly.
I tied it to two things, Magda. First, I related to, what's called the 21st century skills. And that, number one is creativity. And creative entrepreneurs are like, this is their time, right? So creative entrepreneurship directly has a direct relationship with the 21st century skills, which are critical thinking, creativity, as I said, collaboration, communication. And now more than ever, with the access that we have through digital platforms to global audiences as we've never had before, I think creative entrepreneurship has like a lifetime opportunity to really make a difference, unlike any other different type of entrepreneurs. And with that, I don't want to take over. I can go back to you so that we'll make it much more of a dialogue.
Thank you so much, Eliana. And I will be getting back to some of the things that you're mentioning, because you're touching the next parts of my question. But I will now turn to Fawzi, because Eliana, you mentioned gaming industry 2 times. So finally, Fawzi is with us. Fawzi, before I will ask you the same question, I need to share with our audience your book. Unfortunately, my screen is blurred. I don't know how to show it that you can see. Latest Fawzi's book, Demystifying Creativity. Congrats, Fawzi, for this amazing book. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, and Fawzi, you are working in the gaming industry for 20 years. Probably our listeners and viewers today checked quickly your biogram, but for those who hadn't chance to do that, I will mention that Fawzi started his amazing journey of fulfilling his big dream of becoming game developer in Jordan. and he kicked off his career in Jordan, then moved to New Zealand. Worked also for 2 years in place of his gaming dreams in Japan, and then for many years across whole Europe. So you, for the 20 years, really dive basically into every corner and every layer of gaming industry. So how you, from this extremely extensive perspective, how you define creative entrepreneurship and why this concept became so relevant right now?
Well, thank you so much for the humbling introduction, and apologies for being late. I was just on stage at an event here in the Netherlands, actually, and I walked straight from the stage back to my hotel room so I can attend this call. So apologies about the delay. So thank you for having me on this discussion. As you can see, based on the book, it's a topic that is near and dear to my heart. A lot of my friends, they say that I'm slightly obsessed with creativity, and that's an understatement. The thing is, like in our industry, specifically in gaming, much like a lot of other creative industries now, creativity is a consumer expectation, you know? So when we are making something, we are expected that with every new game that we make, that we're offering novelty, that we're presenting unprecedented ideas, or we're providing experiences that the players have not faced before. And the creativity within our field can come from all kinds of different angles. We can have technical innovation in the methods that we create the games, to the methods of how we play and consume the games, to artistic innovation in how we render or we showcase the games, to the music, to narrative innovation, etc. So there's we are like a lot of the difficulties that you would have in music and in movies and in software companies, all combined within a game project sometimes. So unlike a lot of other mediums, the most difficult thing that we face in gaming is that the players would have been there, done that kind of feeling. And that has a disastrous impact on our projects if we get that kind of sentiment from our players. You know, some of the game projects that we work on, they cost hundreds of millions of dollars across several years, with hundreds and sometimes even thousands of people across several time zones working together to deliver this one project. So in order for that practice to be to pay its worth, and in order for it to also be lucrative, that means that we need to tread the very fine line of us being creative, provide something new that's never been seen before, but also not too crazy and not too out there that the people can't relate to and can't enjoy. So we have to be artistic and creative, but not too artistic and creative at the same time. And we need to thread that fine line. So we are in the ideas business, so to say, and that's why I mentioned the business part of it, because there's a very real business reality that countermeasure the creativity angle, you know. So we are expected to be new and innovative with whatever we do, yet with these kinds of budgets, we can't afford to mess up from a business point of view, and we're expected the return of an investment. So a creative entrepreneurial mindset is something that we see on all layers of game development, starting, of course, from the senior leadership of a game projects, people who are creative directors or creative leaders of a project. They're constantly always balancing of like, I need to, have a sort of creative expression, but will the players like it and will they buy it? So all the creatives, to some extent, are constantly thinking of the end consumer. So and that in its own, it's a bit of an entrepreneurial and a business thinking, so to say. So I guess that answers your question right there. Is that like this is an everyday reality for us in our industry?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Fawzi, I will get back to the second part of my question, because I think it's quite relevant for this meeting today.
Yes,
And
please.
the moment that we are meeting today, When you look at your more than 20 years journey, why do you think the creative entrepreneurship became such a popular phrase? Why we are bringing and empowering creative entrepreneurship now and putting so much focus on it right now?
Well, I think because like the more the stakes gets higher, the more we risk going into creative stagnation. As I mentioned, for example, in games projects that takes years to make, have quite high budgets entailed, has a lot of people involved. And also, if you look at the macroeconomic climate that we have right now, it will make sense that corporations and big companies that are funding these projects, they start to get a little bit angsty, because as I said, not being able to deliver something that is both creative and both what players like I said, could have a disastrous impact. In many cases, a lot of those companies, they have this one shot, right? And if they don't get the shot right, it could mean project closure, it could mean layoffs, or it could mean that they cannot venture in there. And because of that, there was a period of time in which corporates and bigger companies were going through a bit of creative stagnation, or a little bit going towards risk aversion. So they go like, all right, so if I'm going to spend this much money, I better make something that I know would work, But this is also kind of part of the problem, because what would work means that if you keep on doing that, it stagnates the audiences. So it loses the creative edge that the players are looking for. Therefore, it leads to a different set of events, but the same disastrous results. People don't buy the project or don't buy the game, mass layoffs, studios shut down, etc. So now, in an effort to control this, there's been a big focus on creative entrepreneurship, and how to try to empower smaller teams to try out their ideas, to try to reach those mass successes as much as possible, or different companies trying to create entrepreneurial mindsets even within the corporate environment, to encourage the teams to have ideas coming in from the bottom up, and encourage the teams to take ownership of the types of games that they want to put together in front of the company board to finance and then move forward. So this is kind of like a counter movement, so to say, as the takes gets higher, but also as much as the creative output is higher. Now we have more games on the market than ever before. With the democratization of video games, the tools that we have that enable people to make video games could mean like 3 guys in their garage anywhere in the world can now join the market as a direct competitor, which means that we have unprecedented amount of competition. So we have a lot of markups in a very competitive and saturated market that would require teams to challenge themselves, not only creatively, but also from a business point of view too.
Thank you so much. Erica, now I will turn to you. Eliana, in her first sentences answering the question about the definitions, she mentioned copyrights. So how, as you are the copyright experts, is there anything to add to this the definition of creative entrepreneurship? How would you define it from your perspective, and how do you see the growth of importance of creative entrepreneurship today?
Okay, thank you. So my perspective comes from the Caribbean, where we're talking about individuals and micro and small enterprises. To speak of entrepreneurship, creative or other ways, for me implies that you're assuming some level of risk. And the risk is coming from offering, as Fawzi was saying, something original, something innovative. And I use the word original specifically because you have to be strategic. And you mentioned copyright. So let's be clear. It's not, well, copyright is the main right, but it could be trademarks, It could be patents, depending on what you're doing. But strategically, you want to be original so that you can benefit from intellectual property rights protection. So if you're coming to the market with something that's not innovative, not original, and as Fawzi just mentioned, you're focused on risk aversion, I don't think you'll get very far, because what you're seeking to do is to take your creative idea or activity and commercialize it, essentially. That's the whole point of it. So in the region, I actually wrote a chapter recently looking at genre innovation, the Caribbean music industry, because we have, from time immemorial, seen the emergence of many genres, and very quickly. And I'm trying to understand, why are people so invested in deliberately creating new genres? And my understanding of it is trying to remain relevant, trying really hard to be original. And well, we won't discuss it here. The question would be, to what extent is this activity successful? And that speaks to other issues. In terms of why is creative entrepreneurship front and center in the Caribbean, quite honestly, I think the first reason has to do with employment generation and economic diversification. We need to find pathways for especially our youth. And the reality is, we live in a digital world, and content creation is something that's seen as accessible, sexy. People see all these people boasting about how much money they can make. You can be a celebrity, quote unquote. So for the young people in particular, it's very attractive. So from a Caribbean perspective, we're talking about job creation and ways to make money. And I see it every day, where you have especially young men seeking to enter the music industry. And yeah, we don't have time for it, but their capacity for success, I always question the level of originality and how strategic they are or aren't. But we can discuss the reasons behind that later. Thank you.
Thank you
Magda,
so much.
if you
Yes,
allow me, I want to piggyback on what Erika was saying, if it's okay. She
course.
mentioned, yeah, like basically employment generation, right? And that is something that for us from this Inter-American Development Bank, I don't know if I'm happy to see like 100 and something people in the audience. So that is very nice to see. So I don't know if out of the audience everyone knows what the Inter-American Development Bank is, but we are a multilateral organization, the largest donor in the region. And I always, whenever I speak, I always say, like, what does the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, have to do with creativity and creative economy and creative entrepreneurship? And it's exactly what Erika said. We know from the data that we've been collecting for years, for more than a decade now, that they are the main driver of economic innovation, of employment generation and innovation in the productivity matrix. So I just wanted to emphasize that. We have data that around the world, the creative economy employs almost 50 million people. And what I like the most about that, being, under the employment generation, is that it's, let's say, half of those jobs are taken by women. And also, we know for certain from the data that the creative economy is the largest employer of youth under 21 years old. So those are two pieces of information that I love. And I want to emphasize what Erika just said, that the creative entrepreneurs and the creative economy in itself is a major employment generator, attracting investment, increasing productivity, and exports, right? So just to piggyback on that. Back to you, Magda.
Eliana, thank you so much. This is exactly what we are looking for. It's very tangible to hear this data, and we are very naturally moving to next part or area of my question, and it's about challenges. We hear about the opportunities, and like Eliana, you mentioned that, and Erika, you mentioned that creative industries are extremely attractive. They are attractive. They are exciting. Fawzi, you mentioned you used a really great phrase, ideas business. Right? Who wouldn't like to live out of their ideas, out of their creativity, out of creating, building new realities and different worlds? But indeed, when you are diving into details, we are discovering how many skills do you need, how complex the processes are, how many things from other sides you need to all the time juggle with and find the sweet spots between creativity and extremely strategic economic mind. So if we were about to uncover now the shades or maybe the challenges of the creative industries, to not romanticize creative entrepreneurship, what would you like to share and point out or shine on to really bring the harsh reality also of creative entrepreneurship? Fawzi, I can maybe, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I can start that. I'm agreeing with what you're saying, because yes, it is a very appealing thought, right? It's like, I just come up with ideas and now they put food on the table. And wouldn't that be the dream, right? There are two things that I want to comment to the statement that you said, and I think that applies to my field, but I imagine that applies to a lot of other adjacent fields. You know, there's two words in today's topic is creative and entrepreneurship, and it's a thing I often mention to every independent developer or smaller studios that are starting out. I told them, like, look, you are starting a creative process of making a video game that's very creative and fun, and this is all you're thinking about. But if you're starting a company, you are also an entrepreneur. So that means that there's the business reality of what it means to start a business and operate it, and then you are now responsible for the fate of those people who believed in you and now tied their fate and their livelihoods to you paying their salaries every month. So your ideas are great, hopefully, and maybe they'll turn into great video games, but that is only a part of your job. And now the major part of your job is that you're an entrepreneur and you are actually funding and growing a company. And what a lot of indie developers, as they start, they go like, but I just wanted to make games, man. I didn't want to do any of this business stuff. But you know, if you're an entrepreneur, you're doing the business stuff. So you need to have a strategic mindset, and you need to have business fluency in order for you to be able to weather the storm. Because ideas, as good as they are, this is leading me to the second part of my answer. You are entrepreneur first. That's the first part. The second part is that ideas are great only if you can execute on them. Other than that, ideas are cheap. You know, so in order for you to be able to execute, you need a certain amount of subject matter expertise. You know, and I write a lot in my book and also in my lectures about that. Even on a scientific level, there's a direct correlation between creativity and subject matter expertise. Maybe too much subject matter expertise makes it difficult for you to think outside of the box. I would agree with that. But you need to have minimal subject matter expertise in order for you to be able to execute on an idea. You can't write a guitar solo if you can't play the guitar, you know. You don't have to be a virtuoso to write a guitar solo, but, you know, you need to be able to play the guitar a bit in order for you to be able to do that. And this is also what I would tell people as they're starting out their business. As part of being an entrepreneurship, an idea is cool only if we can have a plan towards how we execute on it. And that's the other part. There's the business stuff of how am I going to finance the execution, but also the strategic mindset is that, do I actually know or have a plan of how I'm going to execute on this idea?
Mhm. Thank you.
And I feel like oftentimes when I meet with brand new entrepreneurs or people starting out, that they either miss on one or both, which could lead to tragedy in a lot of the cases.
Mhm, mhm. Erica, I will now turn to you. I know that you will be leaving us a bit earlier, so maybe we could begin this part. And what are your, from your perspective, the biggest challenges that we need to consider in creative entrepreneurship that makes it
So I need to
more
apologize.
a realistic view on this exciting journey of an entrepreneur?
I need to apologize because after this I have to go, this response. But in summary, and again I'll speak from the Caribbean. We're talking about operating in an environment which lacks policy coherence, which lacks institutional structure and support. We all know about the issues with access to financing, right? But one of the things that irk me, because, and again, I'll stick to music, is that we have these totally unrealistic expectations as a result of the unrealistic statements that are put out there. So, you go to a session on the creative industries, let's say music, and they'll start by telling you how much money is generated in the global music industry. In Barbados, we have the Rihanna effect. So the question is always who's the next Rihanna? This is not framed in reality, right? So the aspiring entrepreneurs enter the market or seek to enter the market with a completely false idea of what the reality is and how easy success is to achieve. And going back to what Fawzi said, it's amazing. Most people in the music industry don't know, have had no formal training in music. Even if they're vocalists, no training. It's this idea in the region that seems to be based on you just need to have natural talent determined by who, I don't know. So I think we need to, from a government perspective, really step away from all of the buzzwords and the grandiose talk and really look to have systems, develop systems. You can go from A to B to C and so on. Logical systems, establish the relevant institutional frameworks. And by institution, I don't mean necessarily organization. I'm talking whether we're talking about legal institutions, the law, the relevant legislation, the relevant frameworks, etc. And we need to we need to speak plainly with the aspiring creatives. You need to invest just like a doctor invests in their training, or an attorney or an engineer or a plumber. You have to invest in building skills. So I could go on, but I really have to go. So I'm sorry I'm so brief, but thank you for the opportunity.
But you're very to the point. Thank you so much, Erica. And I will build on your response and move to Eliana.
Yeah, I'm
Mentioning. Sorry, Erica's mentioning
mhm.
again reality. And I'm wondering, Eliana, from your perspective, what we can suggest to young people as tools, processes, methods, strategies to really, and I want to really, I need some, I'm looking for something.
I'll give it to you because we have it.
Yeah.
We have like we
Yeah.
have tons of tools that we can give for free to creative entrepreneurs. But just let me go back to two things that my dear colleagues just mentioned, Fawzi and Erika. I'm sad that Erika had to leave, because I wanted to mention that we at the IDB has a partnership with Monk Music in Trinidad and Tobago, and the idea of this partnership that I can then share with the whole audience is the audience if you want. But the whole idea of this partnership is to mentor young artists so that they can register their IP for the beats and the lyrics. And it's been an amazing program, not only for the promotion of exports of creative services for the Trinidad and Tobago's music, but also around the world, because when registering their beats and the music, they can just, sell around the world. They can export their goods and creative services. Just to mention, I wanted to mention the partnership that we have with Monk Music. But then again, she just hit the nail right on the head, and same did Fawzi when they said that on different levels. Remember that the IDB works with governments. So for us, policies are needed to foster the creative ecosystems and support the creative entrepreneurs. So that is for sure. And what we see over and over is that there's a lack of articulation, let's say, between different levels of government, and sometimes between, let's say, where does creativity fall under? Where does the creative economy as an issue of governance? Like, is it under, I don't know, sports and culture ministries? Is it under, I don't know, innovation and technology? So this is more like a transversal topic, and it should be sometimes covered under several ministries at the same time. So there's some sort of articulation that has to happen within different ministries to foster public policies for the creative entrepreneurships and the creative ecosystems. And also, we also say that governments can do only that much, that we also need the power, the muscle of the private sector, because there's a huge access to finance. And then going back to what Fawzi was saying, we also see, apart from the public policy issues, we also see a challenge or an obstacle regarding skills, because and Fawzi said this, sometimes creatives in everything, in all we've done in Latin America and the Caribbean, don't perceive themselves as entrepreneurs, as business people. They just feel as creative, and sometimes even get like, no, I'm an artist, I cannot make money out of my art. And there's a whole issue that we're not going to delve into. But so what we've seen that they lack is two things. First is business skills, as Fawzi was saying, and also digital or new technology skills, that we've seen a huge, a clear lack of this after the pandemic, like in 2020, right? Those that were totally left behind when they were not technologically savvy. So that is as to the challenges. And then going back to, for not to say just all the booming part or all the bad things, we have concrete things that we can offer at the IDB. First of all, I'm not gonna, if you allow me, I'm gonna put it here in the chat. We have what is called Connect Americas, that we at the IDB are very proud of. Connect Americas is a totally free platform, right? That promotes, first, that joins, which is very important for creative entrepreneurs, joins all creative entrepreneurs in general. There's a vertical for creative entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized companies, and they to promote trade and investment among SMEs in Latin America and the Caribbean. As to now, we have almost 16 million users from almost 200 countries around the globe. And we offer an educational component in Connect Americas. So I invite everyone to look at it and have a look at that. Then I will, because I have so much information and resources to give you, that is not going to be, I'm not going to be pasting everything, but I invite you to reach out to me via LinkedIn if you want, and I can share all this information. But we have a MOOC on the creative economy, which has a whole chapter on how to build your skills for being a creative entrepreneur. And by the way, it's the most successful MOOC at the IDB. So we see that there's a huge interest in creative entrepreneurship. And then we have amazing, that one I am going to paste it here. It's called Conecta, which is it's a self-paced guide, which I love. It's like the how-to of how to become a sustainable creative entrepreneur. And we did it with Nesta. So I put it right there. So I hope the other one went through. So those are just two examples of tools that we can offer, but we have literally plenty out of the research that we've done. So yeah, I don't want to. So those are only two, but we have many, and there are many other chapters of Conecta. I only put one there, but there are different chapters depending on what you want to build on. So yeah, I leave it up
Thank
to
you
you,
so
Magda. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Eliana. You are so generous. For sure, we will be writing to you for more.
Absolutely.
This is so great. And basically, you, Fawzi, and Erica, you covered my next question about the skills. Actually, I am usually using a more, I would say, one step higher expression competencies. So a blend of skills and knowledge and mindsets and attitudes, because this is what is putting us forward, right? Like you were mentioning strategic skills, and this is only one part. We need to understand what strategy is, what are the key and critical element of strategy. And we also need to have the mindset, strategic mindset. So forward thinking, future forward thinking, or the ability to think and start from imagining the desired outcome. So you mentioned many super interesting skills, and it always, I think, it shows also the essence of the creative entrepreneurship, because when you're answering basically all of the questions, you are mentioning creativity, yes, but straight away, there are all of these layers, skills, situations, context. Like the creativity was of course, the heart of it, but it has to go with the vehicle of many additional competencies to really get out there and be successful. So thank you so much for mentioning also all of these skills, mindsets, and knowledge bits. I have one last question before I will move to questions from our viewers, listeners. And I will start with an anecdote. 2 years ago, I was participating at Tallinn Music Week, one of my favorite music festivals, also concentrating on entrepreneurship, but also social change design. And this is a great festival that connects creatives, music industry, policymakers, city activists, and they have a great support from local governments. And at the end of the opening speech, President of Estonia turned to the whole audience and said, "We need you all. We are in a really difficult, challenging times in this world, full of changes socially, politically, environmentally, and we need your creativity. We need your way of thinking, your out-of-the-box perspective, and your capacity to really go beyond." And I have a question, because even if we have such a great numbers about the jobs and GPD and etc., still often our governments and decision makers do not perceive creatives as a power or force for transformation in non-creative environments. And what can we do to start to support the shift of the mindset and this paradigm, and start seeing creatives as a potential also outside the creative industries?
Fawzi, you want to go? Can I? I'm going to be quick, and then I leave it up to you. So it happens to us all the time. when we just think of us, our clients are governments, right? The IDV leads directly with governments. And me being a specialist in the creative economy, what I would love the most, and my dream would be, is for, I don't know, for instance, the government of Argentina, my country, to say, I want the IDB to lend, to give a loan to Argentina for, I don't know, the gaming industry, since Fawzi is here, to support the gaming industry. And it doesn't happen, not only from Argentina. It rarely happens, right? We get to do components for the creative economy within major development projects, but it's very hard. And the reason why, going back to your question, Magda, I think it stems from the fact that it's a relatively new topic in terms of employment generation, as Erika mentioned at the beginning, as to innovation in the productivity matrix, on exports, on attraction of investment, on sometimes positioning a country for a tourism destination, right? To brand a country as a gastronomy destination as well. So many different sectors of the creative economy. So I think the problem is we need to churn out more data on the impact of the creative economy, the gaming sector, the audiovisual sector on employment generation. So, governments or, investors need to see the numbers. They need to see, for every buck that I invest here, there's going to be a return, and that impacts lives, and that impacts employment generation and innovation and quality of life in the end. So I believe that we have to continue working on showing the impact of the creative economy on creative entrepreneurship in development and improving lives and all of this that I just said. So I think the more data that we have, the more we're going to convince countries to develop public policies to support, the ecosystem, and also to invest. Because sometimes, like, I think, for instance, Korea is the perfect example. They have it so clear, they saw it, that instead of, I don't know, I think it is in Korea, if I'm not mistaken, that they proved that the creative economy had a greater return on GDP than the automobile industry, the whole automobile industry. So once they see that clearly, there could start to be a shift, but we have to create data for that.
Fawzi,
I couldn't agree more with what Eliana has said. Ultimately, money talks. So the way we can truly showcase the value of the creative industry, regardless of what it is, when you see the impact that it has on macroeconomics as the scale of a GDP of a country, the more likely it is for people to kind of get to understand. I'll share a short funny anecdote, but then drive a point towards that. When I started working in video games, my parents did not even understand what that is. It's like, why are you making video games? I thought that stuff is for kids, And then as my career moved forward and stuff, I think my parents still did not understand what gaming is, but they were like, but like if you're getting jobs that get you to Japan and stuff, then gaming is good, I think, so they still didn't understood what it was, but if it's paying you money, then it's probably good for you. It's why I wanted you to be a doctor or an engineer, is because I wanted to guarantee that you're not going to come back asking me for money. So now that you can pay for your own, it makes a lot of sense. And on a governmental level, like if I talk about one of the countries I live in right now, like Sweden, where the revenue of video games has surpassed steel. So Sweden makes more money of video games than of steel. It is one of our number one exports in the country is video games. So when the government looked like, I was like, oh, those are probably way lighter to transport than steel. All of a sudden, you see so much support programs and stuff like that. And we saw the same in the Middle East. Like I mentioned before, I'm originally from Jordan. When I started, I was amongst the first people that started making games in the country, and a lot of people thought I was crazy. It's like, well, why aren't you going to get a real job? And nowadays, when they saw news of video game companies being sold by billions, The majority of governments in the Middle East now actually offer acceleration programs, grassroots programs, video game support programs, university education to teach game development and game education and stuff like that. So yeah, ultimately that's the entrepreneurial part of creativity. Show us the money, we'll finance your creativity. I do think, though, something that we need to be aware of is that right now, what a lot of these government initiatives, but also schooling do, is that there's a big focus on craft rather than context, which ties me a lot to the speech that the Estonia person is the prime minister. I forgot, but the higher up of an Estonia guy that you mentioned. Because he was talking about I need your know-how to help me navigate a context. We have a big focus on teaching people craft, but not teaching people context. So we teach people how to animate, we teach people how to write music, or we teach people how to do the creative endeavor. That's the skill or the knowledge, the expertise that I mentioned earlier. But what we need to do is to navigate people through the mindset of inevitable change and the macroeconomical context, social shift that is happening across the world, the globalized threats that are affecting the world. All of this creativity is the solution for, by the way. So navigating that context, creativity is ultimately, one of the biggest weapons that we'll have, empowering these shifts. So we need to so having that, we need to show, hey, we're bringing in the cash. It's great. We need you to support us. Fantastic. We love the education stuff. That's also great. But now we need to talk about how we can come together to navigate context. Especially in our days now. And what I love about this talk is what I would love to see more and more in these education is that we'd be able to stop siloing creatives, stop siloing fields.
Yes.
And create opportunities for those different fields to come and interact with each other so that even more creativity can come out of it. So I really like that what this panel is doing, and I'd hope that governments and institutes can kind of facilitate for more ways for different walks of life to come together.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Fawzi. And this is really great that you are mentioning interdisciplinary, such an important aspect of the whole conversation. I am now turning to Fayola. We're getting back to you. I just need to, before I will give you the back the space to you. Because I think when I was mentioning the speech of, I'm not sure if I said that it was a ministry. I think I was Ministry of Estonia. It was a president of Estonia. I need to correct myself. It was Alar Karis. I want to be precise because this is really amazing if we're having presidents of countries at music festivals directing to the creative community. We need you people to change the world. So this is it from me now. We are getting back to the questions to the people with us.
Yes, thank you very much, Magda and Eliana and Fawzi. So we do have a very active chat here. Appreciate everyone who is sharing their LinkedIn profile. Appreciate the engagement and the networking that's happening. There are a few questions, and due to time constraints, I'll probably ask about 2 of them. The first one is there space for workforce development in the creative sector, or is the focus only on the artists?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, Fayola. Can you
No
repeat
problem. Is there space for workforce development in the creative sector, or is the focus only on the artists?
I am very eager to jump in just for a second. I know that my role is moderation here, but as as this question is so relevant and important in the music industry. For example, we are mentioning this sector, and I really regret that Tamara is not here. Tamara Kaminska, Music Export Office Director. She would really have a lot to say on this. In the music industry, we are discussing a lot recently the ecosystems. So this is again a new trend in the research on the creative industries. So we are talking not only about the artists, but the value chain in the whole music ecosystem or creative ecosystem. So we are understanding who is around the artist. Is it a manager, booker, agent? Who else is there? Is there a person for production, sound engineer, producer, a person who is doing the mastering? Then we are talking about all the people in the whole chain that is coming, that is connecting the artist and the artwork with the market. So we are talking about distributors, we are talking about labels, we are talking about people from marketing and promotion. And then when we understand really the value chain and all the people on the value chain, we are understanding how huge the market is and how many professions and jobs are we having there. And the artist is critical, important, because he, she, they are creating the artistic value. But this is a huge market of different professions, competencies, and ideas, or niches and innovations to bring on. So definitely, and I'm cheerleading for empowering all the people and professionals around the artists and creatives.
Okay, great. There's another question, and it's come up twice with regards to game development, and I think it's because Fawzi is on the panel. And the questions are along the lines of, how can someone become a game developer? Another person asked particularly about educational qualification and experience.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, I get asked this question a lot, actually, so I'm happy to answer it here as well. So there are many fields that involve in the part of making a video game. There's anything from programming to art to music to marketing to design. So there's a lot of different fields. You know, you could be a marketing professional that end up working for marketing and video games. You could be a 3D artist or a modeler or an animator that end up working in animation in video games. You could be a music composer that end up composing music for video games. You could be a writer that end up writing for video game, or you could be a programmer that end up programming for video game. And each one of them, they have their formal education, either the computer science. I'm a computer science major, for example, and then did an MBA. So I studied masters in business administration. That's why I wanted to do the whole creative entrepreneurial thing. But you can also study marketing, business development, etc. However, nowadays there's also schools that teach game development. I'm on the board of education for one of them, but I've also taught in game development schools around the world. I teach in Future Games in Stockholm, for example, one of the leading schools on game development in the world. But there's game development courses in several universities around the world. NYU has one, for example. I also gave lectures there before. Cologne Design University, London University of the Arts. So there's now formal education that's being given in game development. And that's actually a very good way to get your foot in the door for game development, because a lot of these schools, they have good relationships with the local gaming companies, so they can secure you an internship program after you're done with the education, so that you get your foot in the door, and then based on how your internship goes on, you can continue on in making video games. This is one way to make video games. Every one of us that work in the industry has somehow stumbled into the industry one way or another. I often enjoy asking people, how did you end up here? Because everybody kind of somehow ends up here with their own unique story. I've also left a link in the chat for people who are interested. It's startmakinggames.com, no spaces. A friend of mine made this website to kind of help people to make video games. So I would urge you to go over there. And if you have very specific questions on your game career journey, I put my LinkedIn in the chat, so feel free to ask me. But also have my website, fawzi.zone, where I could give you some tailored advice if you need it.
Okay, great. That was, I feel like the chat is now a gold mine. So if you all haven't scrolled through the chat, please do, between the links that are being shared between Fawzi and Eliana. And there is one more question that I'd like to ask, and it actually throws us back to the start of the webinar. Particularly, the question is, could it be that the fascination with creative entrepreneurship and the use of the term has more to do with value design thinking and what it brings to business? I'm not sure who wants to take that one. I think it
Can you
happened.
repeat it, please?
Sure. Could the fascination with creative entrepreneurship and the use of the term have more to do with the value that the value that design thinking brings to business?
Yes, so I would say that whenever there's a hot term is coming in, again, there's usually money behind it, which is not a bad thing, you know. But there's a lot of like it is clear that always, if you're always on the forefront of technology in some way, then you might be on the cusp of arriving at some very lucrative new grounds. You know, so that's why, like, you hear a lot, like when it comes to entrepreneurial settings, often you would hear the terms of creative entrepreneurship, but you would hear terms like innovation, breaking new grounds, all of that. All of this is eventually a representation of human ingenuity. You know, like, can we create new ways to do things? You know. From a more artistic point of view, this is something that we're often seeking anyway, because part of the term creativity is originality. You know, it's finding that novelty and something that is not yet seen before. The entrepreneurship part is how can we utilize that also to make money, which is the business side of it, of course.
Okay, great. All right. So someone is asking, Fawzi, if you could just repeat the link to the Learning Game Design program.
Yes, of course. It's startmakinggames.com.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right. So thank you very much to our panel and our moderator. Thank you very much to Magda, Eliana, and Fawzi.
Thank you.
And in her absence, Erica as well. We appreciate the conversation that we've had. It has been quite informative, and the conversation really was like a coffee shop type engagement. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much to everyone who registered and who attended. Just a reminder that this has been recorded and we will be editing this. So please follow us on our social media platforms and look out for the shorts that you will find, as well as the extended recording of the entire program. So thank you very much, everyone. And join us for our next Innovation Café series. It takes place next month on the last Wednesday of the month at 12 noon Atlantic Standard Time. And next month, we will be dealing with the topic of healthy aging. All right. So thank you very much, everyone.